Hey guys, welcome back to a video here. And in this video, we're going to be checking out Tiddly's little frog paludarium over here, giving you a little bit of an update and doing a little bit of maintenance on it. Okay, so before I show you this thing nicely polished up, we're actually going to get in and just do a little bit of basic maintenance and just give it a little bit of a spruce before we have a bit of a deep dive and have a look into it. So let's go through my little bit of a maintenance routine that I do occasionally just to make sure that this thing's kind of humming along. So even before I get into the maintenance side of things, you can see that this thing's grown in pretty crazily at the moment. So it's only been a few months really, and yeah, it's come a long way in that sort of time, both with pros and both with cons. But before we get into that, we've got to do a couple of things to kind of clean it up. And I've kind of purposefully let this get a little bit mucky, as you can see by the glass here, so I can show you how I clean that up for this little frog. There she is there. What a little cutie. And there's a few other things that I've got to do. I actually go through and I'll wipe down all these leaves just to get any sort of like dust and dirt and things off them, any sort of poo or anything like that that she may have left on one of the leaves for me. But before we get too far into it, I'm going to turn the water off to this, just the water pump for like the rain or the drip wall at the back, and we'll do a little water change, just this water down here. A lot of the Java moss that I got that was kind of like half dead when I got it, I did get it for free so I can't complain, is very dead, so I'm just going to suck out a little bit of that as well, just to kind of get a little bit of that funk out of there. One day I will end up replacing it, but it's not really dire, so you know, I'll get into that one day. So yeah, we'll do a little bit of a water change this water, and then make sure all the other water reservoirs are topped up with nice dechlorinated water for her. Okay, so I've just turned the pump off now, and I'm just going to do a quick water change the old-fashioned way, using a hose and a bucket that I've got down here. I'm going to suck out a little bit of this old Java moss in the bottom there, and then we'll replace this water with some nice fresh dechlorinated water for her. So you can see there that I have taken out about 2/3 of the water, so quite a decent water change. It has been a little while in between water changes for her though, so I'm more than happy to do that for her. Obviously she's not living permanently in the water, it's more so there for the plants and things, although she does like to go for her nightly swims, and yeah, she likes to entertain Danny and myself overnight doing big frog splashes into the water. So we're going to add our dechlorinator solution in now, so that's just prime. This is all I use. I always used the little dripper bottles from the dripper tops from the small bottles, and I put it onto the bigger bottles just to make it a little bit more convenient for myself. Okay, so that's all done there now. I've added in the right amount. Now we're just going to go and get a watering can, and I'm going to start filling this up for her. So now that that's actually filled up as well, I'm actually going to add a little bit of Flourish by Seachem. So this is a nice little product that's really good for aquatic plants and such. So because there is so many plants in here, I am just going to add a little bit of this in, just to make sure that these plants have a little bit of nutrients to keep growing the way they are. So underneath Tiddly's tank, it's a little bit of a shamble, this cupboard, but I do have a little water reservoir for her down here, and this is for the rain system that actually comes on a couple of times a day and just kind of adds a little bit of rain into the enclosure for her. And this is all run on a dosing pump, so you know, if you actually watch the actual build video, you'll be able to see some more of this technology and stuff, but today I'm just going to get into more of the maintenance side of things. So I'll open that up. Probably only about a litre or so that I'm going to have to top up there, so we're just going to need a drop or two of the dechlorinator solution, and then we'll just top this up so that's nice and full. Now I don't have to worry about that for probably the next few weeks at the rate that this guy drops in the water. And I'll seal that up. And away we go, that's all done as well. So one of the last things I'm going to do inside of this enclosure is actually use a mist bottle with some dechlorinated water just to kind of spray down the leaves and give them a wipe down with paper towel. And then I'm going to do the same to the glass on the inside of the enclosure and just give that a little bit of a clean up as well. Over time you do get calcium deposits and stuff if you're not using RO water on these sorts of enclosures. So this is just a way to kind of wipe that all down and make sure you're getting rid of all of that. And of course, frogs like to leave their skins all over the glass and on the walls and stuff like that as well. Not sure how well you guys can make that out where she is there, but she's just been going for a crawl and she's looking fantastic. She's put on some size. She's a good little frog. I love those spots along her back too. She's so pretty. She's an awesome little pet. So one of the other things that I had to check was just the humidifier as well. So this comes on twice a day. Doesn't come on for long, it's only about a minute at a time, but in saying that I just wanted to check the water volume. And to be honest, that's probably about another month's worth of water in there, so I'm not going to worry about that just at this moment, but it's worth checking it as part of my maintenance regime. Something else that I'm doing is I might just put in a couple of cuttings of Pamela as well. This is a little ficus plant that I really like. I know a lot of people hate this inside of paludariums and things, but I actually really love it. So I'm going to put it in and see if it takes off. I tend not to be able to reproduce this too easily apart from in a dry format. I tend to struggle to get it going in a wet format. But what I'll do is I'll just kind of poke these little cuttings down into that fish tank sponge down the bottom there and see if these guys will take off. So that's all the maintenance done on this tank, so let's turn this camera around and have a little bit of a look at what's going on inside of here. So all in all, I've been super stoked with how this tank's been coming along. There's been a few things that haven't quite worked out for me, but that's to be expected with any sort of new build. As you can see, Tiddly's quite happy just sitting up at the top of this branch at the moment, and all of these branches are really nice and firm, still stuck inside of this expanding foam. One thing that didn't work out for me so much is the Java moss across the top of this kind of like drip line up here. And that's okay because, as I said before, the Java moss that I got was pretty much half dead when I got it. So, you know, kind of to be expected somewhat. Same sort of goes for the Java moss that was all over the top of these branches and things. I think this piece in particular, maybe just because it was directly underneath Tiddly's infrared heat light there, that got a little bit cooked potentially. So I've actually just unwrapped the wire that was holding that into place off there and gotten rid of that kind of rotten moss. Kind of similar story to the moss that was down here as well. It's kind of still clung there. I should probably just cut that off as well, and in fact I very well may do that right now. But in saying that, I think that's just come down to lighting and the fact that the moss that I got was half garbage, to be honest. So anyway, might just have to invest in some new moss or find some different mosses and things out there and start popping that in. But in saying that, all the other plants seem to have been really cranking along. Like this philodendron, I'll have to put up an image of what this tank looked like when I first set it up. But this philodendron here was only like a tiny little thing, and that's already up to the roof now. And in fact, I've had to cut it back just a little bit because it... Oh, Tiddly just launched out and tried to eat my fingers. That's definitely not an uncommon thing for her. So anyway, let's try to get her back inside of her tank. You silly little frog. Wasn't a worm. I'm sorry I got you all excited. I was like, what the hell is that? I'm being attacked. just the frog. Just the frog. So as I was saying just before I got rudely interrupted by Tiddly, I have had to cut the philodendron back at some point just to kind of actually let a little bit more light into this tank. And I actually put the light over to the side of the terrarium over here as well, just to try to get as much kind of bleed into this as well. So yeah, all in all, the growth has been really fantastic of all of these plants in here. And like most of these are very easy to grow, philodendrons and all that sort of sort. Like this nice kind of silvery one down here has just been going bonkers. This monstera up here has started sending out aerial roots and attaching to the glass. Finally, this little monstera here is starting to kind of take off. These guys are tiny little cuttings that I took from one of my house plants. There are a few kind of little philodendrons hanging around in different areas as well that just haven't taken off, and I think that's because they've just been so waterlogged for so long. But it might be a case of just a little bit of time and patience, and maybe just making sure that the water level stays a little bit lower inside of the aquarium part of it. That might actually help those plants out. This thing's really cranking along, and I think, you know, give it another few months and it's just going to look so good. I definitely love having this little piece of forest here in the lounge room, and it's quite relaxing watching this at night time, especially as the water starts dripping and, you know, you get the rain come on and the fogger and all that sort of stuff. It's yeah, it's quite tranquil. And then more often than not, as the lights go off of the night, this little psycho, she loves to just dive absolutely off the top of that branch there, straight into the water. Water goes absolutely everywhere, but she seems to be having an absolute ball in there. She's such an awesome little frog. So guys, I really hope that you enjoyed this little bit of an update on Tiddly's tank, and just to see a little bit of the maintenance and stuff that goes into this tank, and just to see, like, you know, the growth and stuff that's actually happening inside of here. It's been a little while since I've kind of spoken about this one. So yeah, really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, make sure to drop it a like, give me a comment down below as well, and if you want to support the channel even further, you can go and check me out on Teespring and get yourself some merch, as well as go and check me out on Patreon if you want to get early access videos and more. Until next time guys, take care, and I'll catch you then.